What's up, Comic Book Nation? Welcome to the studio. BD here with Jamie Lovett. We have something cool we're going to unbox right now. Another episode of unboxing on Comicbook.com. We're doing Magic the Gathering, Throne of Eldraine, the newest line of the new set. This is the beginning of a new block.
Well, it's the beginning of, it's not necessarily a block per se, but the standard rotation just happened, so a bunch of the old sets are gone, and so the meta game for tournament play is in all kinds of upheaval, which makes it pretty fun.
All right, okay. So we have a booster box. This is everybody's dream come true, having a booster box of 30 packs to open. We're going to rip through them, and we're going to take a look at some of the rare cards, maybe some of the uncommon cards. If you guys want to see something, let us know. And, there's new game mechanics this time around. There's all kinds of new stuff that I think Jamie's going to dive into. He's our resident expert. I love Magic, but I don't consider myself anywhere near the knowledge of Jamie. So I think we can just jump in.
Yeah, this set, I was telling you before we started, it's thematically, it's a blend of kind of a comedic take on Grimm's fairy tales, along with King Arthur and Arthurian legends. So there's lots of knights, gingerbread monsters, lots of cool spins on classic fairy tales.
Oh, is that Garut? There we go.
Yes,
Return of the Wild Speaker. Instant, rare, choose one. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. Non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. That's a solid little...
Yeah, that's pretty cool. This is, from a story perspective, one of the things people were really excited about was that Garruk Wildspeaker was back. Last anyone saw of him, he had been cursed by the Chain Veil, had turned green-black. This card is very cool because it tells you in the story that apparently he gets to go back to his good old self, which is pretty fun. But yeah, there's another Garruk Planeswalker card in the set, so yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm going to hand this to you because this one has one of those new game mechanics.
Sure.
This is an uncommon creature, but it has each creature you control that has adventure enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So adventure's one of those new...
Right. So cards with adventure they're creatures that have another spell on them. And that's the adventure spell. You can cast the spell instead of the creature, and it sends your creature, quote unquote, on an adventure, which means you can then cast the creature later, even though it's not in your hand anymore. So there's already some pretty cool brews of especially green and white builds that use cards like Mysterious Pathlighter to take full advantage of adventure, build up big creatures, that kind of thing. Very cool.
Okay, all right. And we got this pack I just opened is awesome because we got two rares. We got a little shiny rare, and then we got our artifact. Let's start with the artifact, Sorcerous Spyglass. As Sorcerous Spyglass enters the battlefield, look at an opponent's hand, then choose any card activated. Card name any abilities of sources with the chosen name. Can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. Interesting. And then over here to Embercleave. It's shiny. Look at it. I can't stop looking at it. Legendary artifact, equipment, flash. This spell costs one less to cast for each attacking creature you control. When Embercleave enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. Each creature gets +1/+1 and has double strikes and trample. Equip for 3. Wow, that's really okay.
Yeah, so Embercleave's a card that's already found.
That's like when Thor entered Wakanda.
Yeah, some people are trying it out in mono red decks, in night decks. The trick with equipment is that you have to pay 2 costs for it because you have to cast it and then you have to equip it. With this having flash and then being able to automatically equip, that gets around all of the negatives of equipment. So naturally people are playing this in really aggressive decks that are going to have lots of creatures attacking to cut down on that big 6 mana cost. And once you do, it can be pretty deadly.
All right, so I want to just point with this we're bringing back the split cards here.
Those are the adventure cards.
Okay, so we have 2 of them. One's uncommon. We'll focus on the rare here. It's a blue Fae of Wishes. Granted. What is granted?
Granted is the adventure spell.
Okay.
So you can cast Granted, and then you exile the card, and you can cast the actual creature, Fae of Wishes, later on.
Okay, so Sorcery of Adventure. You may choose a non-creature card you own from outside the game, reveal it, and put it into your hand, and then it becomes the creature, flying, discard 2 cards, return Fae of Wishes to its owner's hand. Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, this is a card that's already seeing a lot of play in control and mid-range style decks that like to have options. Obviously, this lets you pull something from outside the game, which means you have a lot of options to choose from, just the right solution to whatever problem you're facing. And then it's just not a bad creature on its own when you cast it on its own if you need a 2-drop. But yeah, the great thing about Adventure is it's kind of virtual card advantage because every card you have with Adventure is kind of like having 2 cards instead of 1 in your hand. So it gives you a lot of value for a single card.
I like this card already. I was always a big dragon guy back in like the Onslaught days.
You a Timmy.
Hey, listen, all right. Opportunistic dragon, rare creature. Not a huge mana cost to come in. That's pretty solid, I guess, for a 4/3. Flying, when opportunistic dragon enters the battlefield, choose target human or artifact an opponent controls. For as long as opportunistic dragon remains on the battlefield, gain control of that permanent. It loses all abilities and it can't attack or block. That's... I mean, at that low mana cost.
Yeah, 4 mana for
That's when you might
a 4/3
sit on for a
flying.
while.
Yeah, it's not, 4/3 flying for 4 mana isn't anything that's gonna, set the world on fire.
Right.
But if you,
Dragon will.
especially coming in kind of off the sideboard, if you know your opponent has a particular artifact or human creature that they really need to make their deck work, then bring this in, adding it to your deck for just the right time can really swing a game.
All right, we've got our first legendary. Oh no, this is not our first legendary creature, is it? Yeah, we had a legendary artifact. This is our first legendary creature, Gadwick the Wizened. When Gadwick the Wizened enters the battlefield, draw X cards, X being the number of mana you tapped to bring them in. Whenever you cast a blue spell, tap target non-land permanent an opponent controls. This is going back to control with the blue there.
Yeah, and it does pretty much everything control decks like to do. It draws cards, it makes it really hard for your opponent to use their cards, and it's, can be used as a blocker to keep tiny creatures off your back if you're playing a really, really cheap, fast deck. So yeah, this Throne of Eldraine has a lot of cards that encourage you to play monocolored as well, and a 3 blue mana cost card is one of those kinds of things that makes you want to play all blue.
So we got lucky again. This is a pretty good box so far because we got a little shiny, a little holograph, a little foil card. Stolen by the Fae. It's rare, so we're doubling up on rares in this pack. Return target creature with converted mana cost X to its owner's hand. You create X 1/1 blue fairy creature tokens with flying. That's solid. The blue is shaping up so far. And then we also have Ayara. First of Loxswain. Listen, it's early. I'm trying to pronounce these. Legendary creature, Elf Noble. Whenever Ayara, the first of Loxswain, or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. That's new for black. Usually I feel like I'm draining all my own life. And then if you tap it, sacrifice another black creature. There's the sacrifice. Draw a card.
Yeah, this is a kind of prototypical black card. There's been a lot of attempts to make mono black aggro a thing with this set. This is a good card for that because if you're running aggro, you're running a lot of creatures anyway, and this one, does damage and helps keep you alive just for playing them, never mind attacking. So yeah, that's a good one.
Solid. Now we have our first rare land. It is Fabled Passage. Looks like Moisty Mire. Fortnite reference. Jamie, do you get that one?
I don't.
Sacrifice Fabled Passage. Search your library for a basic land card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. Then if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. Okay.
So this is a really important card in this set because with that standard rotation we talked about, players lost access to an entire set of dual lands. So it's really a lot harder to fix your mana base in the new standard, and being able to play this on turn 1 and get, if you're missing one of your colors to go fetch that is really, really handy. So this is seeing pretty much almost any multicolored deck, especially if it's 3 colors, will play Fabled Passage.
All right. So I opened one while you were explaining, and we got Stolen by the Fae, which is a card we just opened.
Yep.
So I'll hand that to you, and then let's move on. Another legendary land here, not legendary, rare land. Castle Loch Twain. So we just saw who hails from this castle. Castle Lochmain enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp. Tap it, add a swamp. For 3 there, draw a card. Then you lose life equal to the number of cards in your hand. Black decks, man. Dude,
black.
I'm not about it.
Yeah, this is, so in the world of Eldraine, there are 5 realms. Each of the realms has a castle. And those castles are all represented by a land card. There's also 5 lords that are represented by legendary creatures in the set.
Right.
They all do what their color does very well, this one being trading life for card advantage. So yeah, this is a card that we'll see not only in black decks, but if people try and run black-blue control, or probably even Esper control, this probably has a home there.
We've got a legendary artifact. The Great Henge. This spell costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control, because it does cost 2 green and 7. Tap it, add 2, and you gain 2 life. Whenever non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. I enjoy that card.
Yeah, so mono green decks love this card, obviously, because they're playing big bad creatures. A lot of people are running black-green mid-range right now because they have a card like Rotting Regisaur, costs 3 to play and has 7 attack. So that makes this a 2-cost card to play, and then you're just pumping out those tokens. A lot of people brewing around this card. Also, very cool that I really like colored artifacts are a thing now. The Embercleave was a red artifact. This is a green artifact. Adds a little more variety to that, which I think is fun.
Sure. Witch's Vengeance. Not a high cost there. Creatures of the creature type of your choice get -3/-3 until end of turn. You can wipe the board out there if you try to, or you can do some serious damage.
Yeah, so people are trying to make Knights Tribal a thing because there are a lot of good Knights in this set and in some of the past sets. The problem is this card kind of wipes out Knight decks all on its own. -3/-3 will kill almost any Knight you have on the board unless you have tons of Lords. So this is a very dangerous card, probably a sideboard card, but a very dangerous card.
All right, Piper of the Storm. I feel like now we're on a roll with black decks. Creature, human warlock. Rats you control have menace. Create a 1/1 rat creature token, or sacrifice 3 rats, gain control of target creature. Those are like some zombie rats, man.
Yeah.
Those are...
I don't know what deck I would slot this into that exists currently, but I know that there are people who, in more casual formats, play decks that are just nothing but rats. Because I forget what it's called, but there's a certain rat card that you can have more of 4 of in a deck, so you can just build a deck entirely of it. I feel like this would be fun in that kind of deck.
All right, speaking of knights, we have a rare human knight. Fervent Champion. First strike, haste. Whenever Fervent Champion attacks another target creature, another target attacking knight you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Equip abilities you activate. That target Fervent Champion costs 3 less to activate, but it's a 1/1, like you said. Would be killed by that -3/-3 spell.
Yep, he's really good. If you're playing an aggressive Knight deck, he's a great 1-drop for that. I actually, when I've been playing, I played him in just some mono red decks, and if you're lucky enough to get 2 of them, then, on turn 2, you're attacking for 4 because they bump each other up, which is always kind of something that seems to take your opponent off guard.
Yeah. Gilded Goose, one to play. That's an 0/2. Flying. Whenever Gilded Goose, this bird creature, enters the battlefield, create a food token. It's an artifact with 2 tap. Sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. Create a food token, or sacrifice a food, add 1 mana of any color. So this is another one of those new game mechanics, food.
Yep. So food on its own is just it's a kind of token. It does what it says here. You can pay 2 and sacrifice the food to gain 3 life. What's more fun with food is how other cards interact with food. Like this one, Gilded Goose essentially replaced Land and War Elves as the go-to 1-drop in any deck that runs green. Because like I said, it's hard to fix your mana now, and this thing can create food and fix your mana for you. Essentially, paying a couple mana now to get the more mana you need later.
And in a green deck, you're probably going to need it.
Yes, this is going to be a highly sought after card.
Fires of Invention. Enchantment. You cast spells only during your turn, and you can cast no more than 2 spells each turn. You may cast spells with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control without paying their mana cost.
Yeah, this is a deck that a lot of smarter deck builders than I are trying to build around. I know it's found A lot of people like it in decks that are heavy on Planeswalkers, because Planeswalkers, once you have them on the board, have so many effects that they can do without you having to cast any spells. So you play this, and then take advantage of your Planeswalkers and just kind of go to town.
We've got no color. Sorcerer's Spyglass. We did this already, right?
I think we did, because you kind
of battlefield. Look at an opponent. Yep, we did go through
stumbled over yourself.
There you go.
We still haven't seen, at least not in the rares or mythic rares, any Adamant cards. Adamant is an ability that just lets you, basically you get a bonus if you use all of the same color of mana in casting a card. So like a red card might do more damage if you cast it with all red. That kind of thing.
And we have now a legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard, Emry, Lurker of the Loch. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. When Emry, Lurker of the Loch enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library into your graveyard, tap it, choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. You still pay its cost. Timing rules still apply.
Yeah, this is an interesting card because I know a lot of players want to see artifact-centered decks come back. They haven't really been a very strong option for a while. I'm not sure that they're there yet, but if they do get there, then Emry will probably be a very powerful card in those decks. With all the colored artifacts we got in this set, that may happen in the near future.
And this is a cool multicolored legendary planeswalker, Will Rowan. The Royal Scions.
Scions.
All right, I'm just making sure, listen. All right, +1, draw a card, then discard a card. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains strike and trample until end of turn. Draw 4 cards. When you do, the Royal Scions deals damage to any target equal to the number of cards in your hand. But that costs 8.
Yeah, so this card's cool for a couple reasons. The first time they've done 2 Planeswalkers on a single Planeswalker card.
Sure.
That's because they're the royal twins who share a spark in the story, which is pretty cool. This is a really powerful card. I know a lot of people are just still trying to figure out what deck it fits best into. Some people, myself included, have tried it with Is It Phoenix, and it works all right. It just feels like there should be a better shell to fit around it somewhere.
We have a rare land, Castle Vantress. Castle Vantress enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island. Tap it at an island, 2 and 2, scry 2.
Yeah, so this is another one of those castle cycle cards we talked about. This, it lets you see what's coming with scry, decide if you want it or not, and switch it out. It's a great place to dump extra mana if you have it. And if you're playing blue-black, you can pair it with that other castle that lets you draw cards to really manipulate your draw.
We have our next Human Knight. It's a 0/0.
Oh boy.
But Oathsworn Knight enters the battlefield with 4+1/+1 counters on it. Oathsworn Knight attacks each combat if able. If damage would be dealt to Oathsworn Knight while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove a +1/+1 counter from it. That's interesting.
This seems, being so hard to kill makes it seem like this would be a good choice for a kind of heroic deck, the kind of deck that focuses on one really good creature. And the next set coming out is a Theros set, and Theros is usually a plane that likes heroic builds. So I don't know that this card has a great place right now, but I'd keep an eye on it in the future.
Dance of the Manse, multicolor, white and blue. Sorcery.
I hate this card.
Jamie has strong opinions about this one. Return up to X target artifact and or non-aura enchantment cards, each with converted mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If X is 6 or more, those permanents are 4/4 creatures in addition to their other types. Do you hate this card because it has been used against you?
Yes. So I like to play aggro decks. I like to run tap creatures. This is a card that has made Esper Control, which has been a very dominant archetype in the format for a long time, given it a new toy to play with, because now they just play easily sacrificial artifacts and enchantments with expirations. They all go in the graveyard, then they play this and they bring them all back and they punch you in the face. It's really annoying to play around.
All right, we got a double legendary creature pack in this most recent one. One's shiny though. Ooh. Linden, the Steadfast Queen, has vigilance. Whenever a white creature you control attacks, you gain 1 life. Oh, I like Linden. You can see how I like to play, Jamie. You think you're pussy.
You like the shinies.
Yorvel, Lord of Garenbrig, legendary creature, giant noble. Yorvel, Lord of Garenbrig, enters the battlefield with 4+1/+1 counters on it. Whenever another green creature enters the battlefield you control, put a +1/+1 counter on Yorvo. Then if that creature's power is greater than Yorvo's power, put another +1/+1 counter on Yorvo. And he only costs 3 to get onto the field.
Yorvo is, he's seeing a lot of play in mono green builds. He's got 3 green, so that makes sense. And he is real tough to deal with if he gets on the board. If you're not playing a black deck or something with instant creature removal, he can be real tough to deal with because you're probably not going to kill him with damage.
You spec trample
based
on that
on what
guy,
he
he's
does.
going to be ruthless late in the game.
Yeah, he can be bad.
All right, giant killer, creature, human peasant. Chop down, instant adventure, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, or tap target creature. This is another one of those adventure cards.
Yeah, this is if mono white becomes like mono white weenie becomes a thing again, this might find a home there. As it is now, I think this is a card that's best served as maybe in a white sideboard to deal with mono green decks and stuff like that that like to play really big, annoying, hard to kill creatures.
Here we go, another one. Murderous Rider, Zombie Knight.
This is a fantastic card.
Destroy target creature or planeswalker. You lose 2 life. Jamie, we don't play this. We don't play the same way. Lifelink. When Murderous Rider dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library.
Yeah, so I was talking about how great card advantage these adventure cards are. This card is essentially murder. It kills a creature for you.
Sure.
For 3 mana, you have to pay 2 life, but whatever, not a big deal if you're playing black. And then you can pay 3 more mana, next turn, whatever, and get a 2/3 with lifelink that goes back in your deck if it dies. So if you have a card to fetch it out later, you can get it again. This is a really good card that's going to be in every black deck forever until it leaves, probably.
Ironcrag, Pyromancer, Human Wizard. 1 red and 2. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, Ironcrag, Pyromancer deals 3 damage to any target. Wow, let's see.
This is a brutal combo card waiting to happen. I've seen it played and played it in blue-red decks. It's pretty good in those. It's really, I feel like, just waiting for the right card draw mechanism to break it and make it like a force to be reckoned with on its own.
Hushbringer, white, 1/1, flying and lifelink. Creatures entering the battlefield or dying don't cause abilities to trigger. Slowing things down.
Yeah, this is another big sideboard card. Golos, a card from another deck, and a card from another set, and Field of Dead, also from another set, are both really big popular cards right now. They both trigger off of, well, actually, this wouldn't help Field of the Dead, but there are a lot of cards that trigger off of creatures coming into the battlefield. If you can get this on the board and protect it, that can shut down that strategy pretty well.
I just want to point out, I'm making a separate pile
Of shinies?
of all of our foil holographic shiny cards.
You can't help yourself, can you?
I can't. I'm like a dog that sees a shiny red ball. All right. Creature, Human Knight, Stormfist Crusader, rare, black and red, multicolor. Let's go. Menace at the beginning of your upkeep. Each player draws a card and loses 1 life. I like the art on that one.
Yeah, that's good art.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of, it can, in theory, be a finisher in either a Rakdos aggro or a Knight deck. It's, potentially dangerous because of the loss of life, but with Menace, you equip it with, say, Embercleave or something, and it can finish someone off pretty quick.
I was going to speed the game up. Harmonious Archon. 2 and 4. White. Creature, Archon. Flying. Non-Archon creatures have a base power and toughness 3/3. When Harmonious Archon enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 white human creature tokens.
Which then instantly become 3/3s.
Yeah.
So you're essentially paying 6 for 3 creatures that can be difficult to deal with.
Wow.
I'm not sure where this card fits just yet, but that ability is interesting because it can be used to hurt bigger creatures or boost smaller creatures, so I feel like there's a lot of potential use.
All right, look at the art. Look at this card. Look at the art on this card. It's pretty cool. The whole design of this card is very cool. Love-Struck Beast. That's what my ex-girlfriend called me. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Yuck.
It didn't make any sense. I couldn't help myself. Heart's Desire and Sorcery Adventure. Create a 1/1 white human creature token, and then Love-Struck Beast can't attack unless you control a 1/1 creature. But it's a 5/5, cost 3. That's
Yeah, I love this card mostly because it's it's a play on the Beauty and the Beast fairy tale.
Sure.
And it's such a perfect version of that. As far as gameplay, this is a great card for those white-green adventure token decks that I mentioned earlier that really take advantage of that mechanic.
Let's go to Midnight Clock. It's a blue artifact. Tap it, add a blue mana. 2 and a blue. Put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. At the beginning of each upkeep, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. When the 12th hour counter is put on Midnight Clock, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, then draw 7 cards and exile Midnight Clock. Exile. Just kidding, I didn't throw it.
This is a card that I respect, but I will never play because I never play control. Well, sometimes, but this is a card that's great for control decks because it gives you a chance to get a brand new hand when you may have already played all your great stuff. And blue decks, control decks, they love card advantage.
We've got a rare land, Castle Ardenvale. Castle Ardenvale enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a plains. Tap it at a plains. Tap to create a 1/1 white human creature token. The white feels like it's kind of taken on a lot of traits from what green used to be.
I don't know, this kind of token thing. This card feels like a replacement for a card called Legion's Landing that was very popular in white creatures decks. It rotated out. It's not, I don't think, as good as Legion's Landing because it costs more mana to create that token, but being able to create that token is very handy.
We've got another castle. Castle Embereth. Castle Embereth enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain. Add a mountain. Tap 1 and 2 mountains. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn.
Yeah, this is my favorite of the castles because I am an over-aggressive red player. But yeah, this is great in mono red or really any red aggro deck because it can turn a few small creatures into suddenly a deadly threat, which is very cool, especially if you get multiples.
Linden the Steadfast Queen. Legends. We got a Linden.
We did. We got a shiny one.
We got a shiny. Yeah, I don't want this one. We got a shiny one.
This is another card that might be good if mono white weenie decks become good again because they love to attack with white creatures and suddenly you'll be gaining life.
But I feel like we're getting through a lot of these white cards, we're seeing the ability to add a lot of white creatures quickly.
Yes, there are people brewing with decks based around life gain and angel cards and stuff like that. So there may be something here I'm not seeing, but there are definitely people who are going to like that card.
Iron Crag Feet. Sorcery. Add 7 mountains. You can cast only 1 more spell this turn though. Early in the game. It costs 4 to get out though.
Yeah, this is a tricky one to play. There are probably a lot better players than I who know exactly how they want to use this card to play exactly a certain spell on exactly the right turn. But this one feels a little too finessey for my particularly aggro-minded brain.
Here we go. Let's see. Add a red one, Jamie. I feel like you're going to like it. I don't know why. This one costs 7 to get out. Sorcery. Sundering Stroke deals 7 damage divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. If at least 7 red mana was spent to create this spell, instead, Sundering Stroke deals 7 damage to each of those permanents and or players. That's strong.
Yes.
Strong card.
This is, being that it costs 7 to play, it's probably not gonna find a place in any main decks. But if you know a game's gonna go long, if you know that they have hydras you have to deal with or other really big creatures that you really have to kill, this may be one that finds a place in sideboards and comes out then.
All right, we've got our last card we're gonna take a look at. If you have any questions, guys, about any of the cards we saw or any of the cards that we went through, you wanna know more, I suggest tweeting at Jamie Lovett. He's the man behind all this, and he will crush you with all of these cards. Now, he plays online. He doesn't go beat up on the little kids at the store, even though if I was him, I would. The Cauldron of Eternity, a legendary artifact that's black, and it costs 12 to get out there. But this spell costs 2 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard, because of course it does, it's black. Whenever a creature you control dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library so it can come back as a zombie. That's not on there, I just made that part up. For 3, tap it, pay 2 life, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. I don't know.
This is a deck card, that black decks running Aristocrat strategies are going to love. They're strategies that are all about sacrificing creatures to do damage, gain life, basically make your opponent's life miserable. because it means you can recycle those creatures in various different ways, and it'll be easy to cast this thing because you'll have lots of stuff in the graveyard.
It's true.
So that's definitely where this card lives and will probably serve them well.
Look at all these cards. Imagine if we took the time to go through all of these. Guys, this was an unboxing of Magic the Gathering's Throne of Eldraine. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, hit us up. You can find me at Brendan Davis BD. You can find him at Jamie Lovett. Jamie, anything else you want to point out before we wrap up today?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. We didn't see any adamant cards in our picks, but you get the idea. They're pretty simple.
All right, everybody. Like I said, hit us up with your questions. Thanks for watching.